I'm standing in the security line at Denver International Airport, boarding pass in my shaking hand, when the TSA agent tells me I'm not getting on that flight. My heart stops. Behind me, I can hear her voice, Linda's voice, shouting my name from across the checkpoint, and I know exactly what she's done. She's called me in. She's actually called me in as some kind of threat. My wife, Rebecca, is supposed to be waiting for me at the gate. We had plans, real plans. But now there's a supervisor walking toward me with that look, the one that says your day is about to get a whole lot worse. Let me back up. Let me tell you how we got here. 6 months earlier, everything was normal. Better than normal, actually. Rebecca and I had just bought our house in Littleton, a 3-bedroom ranch with a finished basement and a 2-car garage. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. We closed on it in April, and I remember standing in the kitchen, running my hand along the granite countertop, thinking about how far we'd come. Rebecca was a dental hygienist, making decent money. I worked in IT for a mid-size financial services company. Together, we made it work. Our credit score was solid, our 401s were funded. We weren't rich, but we were stable. Linda, Rebecca's mother, had been skeptical about the whole thing from the start. "You're taking on too much debt," she'd said when we showed her the listing. "The housing market's unstable. You're going to regret this." Linda had a way of making every milestone feel like a mistake. She'd been a widow for 15 years. Rebecca's father died when Becca was in college, and she'd spent all that time perfecting the art of worry and judgment. But here's the thing. We didn't care. Rebecca and I had worked hard, saved aggressively, and we were proud. We threw a small housewarming party in May. My parents came out from Kansas City. Rebecca's brother Mark flew in from Austin. And yes, Linda came too, and she spent most of the evening critiquing our kitchen layout and asking about our property tax assessment. Life was good, though. Really good. Rebecca would come home from the dental office and tell me stories about her patients. I'd cook dinner most nights. Nothing elaborate, but real meals. We'd sit on our new back patio on summer evenings with beers, planning little projects. We wanted to do some landscaping in the spring, maybe convert the basement into a guest room eventually. Normal dreams, normal life. Linda lived about 40 minutes away in a townhouse in Commerce City. She visited maybe twice a month, always with some criticism or concern. Rebecca would get tense before the visits, doing a deep clean, making sure everything was perfect. I'd tell her to relax, that her mom was just being Linda, but I could see it stressed her out. Then, in late September, Rebecca got invited to a dental conference in San Diego. 3 days, all expenses paid by the practice. She was genuinely excited about it. These conferences were rare for her. She asked if I wanted to come along, make it a little vacation, but I had a major system migration at work that I couldn't skip. So we decided to make it our own thing. She'd go to the conference, I'd handle work, and we'd celebrate her accomplishment when she got back. "My mom wants to see you while I'm gone," Rebecca said one evening. We were in bed, her head on my chest, scrolling through her phone. "She mentioned it when I called her yesterday." "Linda wants to see me?" I asked. That was unusual. Linda tolerated me, I thought, but we weren't exactly close. She said something about wanting to discuss some family business. I don't know. You know how she is. Probably just wants to give you her unsolicited advice about something. I laughed. That's basically her love language at this point. Just be nice, okay? She's lonely. Dad's been gone for so long, and she doesn't have a lot going on. So I agreed. Rebecca left on a Thursday morning in October. I drove her to the airport, kissed her goodbye at the departures curb, and watched her disappear into the terminal. Then I went back to work, handled the migration, and Friday evening I drove out to Linda's place. That's where everything started to crack. She answered the door in one of her cardigans. She always wore cardigans, even when it was warm, and invited me inside. Her townhouse smelled like Febreze and old furniture. She'd made coffee and had some store-bought cookies on a plate. We sat in her living room, and at first it was fine. Small talk. How's work? How's the house? How's everything? Then Linda set down her coffee cup with this deliberate clink against the saucer. "I need to talk to you about Rebecca," she said. My stomach tightened. What about her? I think she's being irresponsible with money, and I think you're enabling it. I felt my jaw clench. Linda, we're doing fine financially, better than fine. The house is too much, she said, not even acknowledging what I'd said. And now this conference trip. Do you know how much she's spending on flights and hotels? She showed me the booking. It's obscene. The hotel's covered by the conference, I told her. And flights are her ticket to professional development. She's excited about it. Excitement doesn't pay mortgages, Linda said. She picked her coffee back up, took a slow sip, and stared at me over the rim of the cup. I'm concerned about her future. About your future. And I don't think you're being a strong enough partner to help her see reason. That's when I realized Linda didn't want advice from me. She wanted to tell me I was failing as a husband. She wanted me to feel small. We're fine, I said quietly. Rebecca and I talk about money all the time. We have a plan. We're not reckless. You're young, Linda said. You think you're invincible. But I've seen this before. People overextend themselves, and then something happens. A job loss, a medical emergency, a market crash, and suddenly they're drowning. I didn't stay much longer after that. I made an excuse about early morning errands, and Linda didn't try to stop me. But as I drove home, I kept replaying her words. Was she right? Were we being reckless? We weren't. I knew we weren't. But Linda had a way of making you doubt yourself. When Rebecca got back from San Diego on Sunday, she was glowing. She'd learned new techniques, networked with other hygienists, and felt energized about her career. I didn't tell her about Linda's comments. What was the point? She'd just stress out about it. But Linda wasn't done. Over the next few weeks, she called Rebecca constantly. I'd hear Rebecca on the phone in the other room, her voice getting tighter with each conversation. Mom, we're fine. No, we don't need your financial advisor's number. Mom, please. It was exhausting just listening to it. Then came November, Thanksgiving. Linda had decided to host at her place in Commerce City. Rebecca had been dreading it for weeks. She's going to spend the whole time making comments about the house, Rebecca said the night before. We were in bed, and she was scrolling through her phone, her jaw clenched. I can feel it coming. Something about property taxes or the neighborhood or how we should have waited to buy. Then we won't let her, I said. If she starts, we leave. Rebecca laughed bitterly. It's not that simple. She's my mother. Thanksgiving morning, Rebecca made a green bean casserole and a pie from scratch. I brought a bottle of wine and flowers. We drove out to Commerce City in silence. The kind of silence that means you're both bracing for impact. Linda answered the door in her cardigan, of course. She hugged Rebecca first. Then me. A stiff, brief hug that didn't feel like a hug at all. The turkey was already in the oven. The table was set with her good china. Everything looked perfect and felt cold. For the first hour, it was fine. We talked about Rebecca's patients, my work, the weather. Linda asked about the house in a way that seemed innocent enough, but I could feel it. The setup, the patience. She was waiting for something. Then, over dinner, she did it. So I've been thinking about you two, Linda said, cutting into her turkey. And I want to help. Rebecca froze. Help with what, Mom? Your finances. I've been talking to my friend Patricia. You know Patricia. Her husband's an accountant. And she thinks you're overextended. Seriously overextended. She looked at your mortgage documents when you showed them to me, and she thinks you made a mistake. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Rebecca had shown her mother our mortgage documents. I didn't show her everything, Rebecca said quietly, her face flushing. Just the general numbers. The numbers are the problem, Linda said. She was speaking in that reasonable voice she used when she was about to say something devastating. Patricia thinks you should consider selling. The market's still hot. You could walk away with a small profit, rent for a few years, let your credit rebuild, and then buy something more sensible. My credit is fine, I said. My voice came out flat. For now, Linda said. She looked at me directly for the first time all evening. But Rebecca told me you had some late payments on your car in your 20s. That stays on your report for 7 years. I'm just saying, you're vulnerable. Rebecca reached under the table and grabbed my hand. I could feel her trembling. We're not selling, I said. You're being emotional about it, Linda continued, as if I hadn't spoken. That's understandable. But Rebecca needs someone thinking clearly about her future, someone older with more perspective. Her husband is thinking about her future, Rebecca said. Her voice was small, but there was steel in it. And we're not selling the house. Linda set down her fork. Rebecca, sweetheart, I know you love him, but… Don't, Rebecca said. Don't do that. Don't make this about whether I trust him. I trust him completely. We made this decision together. We're happy. Happiness doesn't pay mortgages when the market crashes, Linda said. I stood up. I actually stood up and walked into the kitchen. I couldn't sit there anymore. Rebecca followed me, and I could hear Linda calling after her. I'm just trying to help. In the kitchen, Rebecca wrapped her arms around me from behind. I was shaking. I was so angry I could barely breathe. I'm sorry, she whispered into my back. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have shown her anything. It's not your fault, I said. But I was lying. Part of me was angry at her, too. Part of me thought, why did you give her ammunition? Why did you tell her about my old credit issues? But I didn't say that. I held her instead, and we stood there in Linda's kitchen while her mother sat alone at the dining room table, waiting for us to come back. We didn't. We packed up the casserole dish and the pie plate, made an excuse about an early morning, and drove back to Littleton in the dark. Rebecca didn't speak the whole drive home. When we got inside, she went straight to the bedroom and closed the door. I sat in the living room, staring at nothing, feeling like the walls were closing in. That's when things got really bad. Linda started calling more. Rebecca would answer, and I'd hear her voice getting quieter, smaller. She stopped cooking the elaborate dinners. She'd come home from work exhausted in a way that wasn't physical. One night, I found her in the basement, just sitting on the unfinished concrete floor, staring at nothing. Hey, I said gently. You okay? Mom thinks I made a mistake marrying you, she said. She didn't say it exactly, but that's what she meant. She doesn't think that, I lied. She does. And now I'm wondering if she's right. What if we are overextended? What if something happens and we can't make the payments? Rebecca, we have an emergency fund. We have good jobs. We're fine. But what if… Stop, I said. Stop letting her do this to you. Rebecca looked at me with tears in her eyes. I can't just stop. She's my mother. That was the beginning of December, and that's when Linda went nuclear. She called me at work, on a Wednesday afternoon, my direct line, which she shouldn't have even known. I need to talk to you about Rebecca, she said without preamble. How did you get this number? It doesn't matter. What matters is that my daughter is stressed and unhappy, and you're the reason. I felt my face go hot. That's not true. You've isolated her. You've convinced her to make terrible financial decisions. You're controlling. Linda, I'm hanging up. If you care about her at all, you'll let her come stay with me for a while. Let her clear her head. No. You see? Controlling. I'm going to talk to a divorce attorney about what my options are. And then she hung up. I sat at my desk for 10 minutes, just staring at my computer screen. A divorce attorney? What did that even mean? Was she threatening to help Rebecca divorce me? Or was she just threatening in general? When I told Rebecca that evening, she looked devastated. She called you? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Stop apologizing, I said. But I was scared now. Really scared. I'd never seen Linda this aggressive. I'd never felt like our marriage was actually in danger. Rebecca called her mother that night. I could hear her from the other room. Mom, you can't call him at work. No, I'm not isolated. I love him. I don't care what your attorney said. We're not getting divorced. But I could hear the doubt in her voice. I could hear Linda's voice on the other end, calm and reasonable and poisonous, saying things I couldn't quite make out. By mid-December, Rebecca was barely sleeping. She'd lie next to me, awake, her whole body tense. She started talking about maybe taking a trip, getting away for a few days. Just to think, just to clear her head. A trip where? I asked. San Diego, maybe, or somewhere warm. Just away. I felt something crack inside my chest. She wanted to get away from me. Not from Linda, from me. Okay, I said, because what else could I say? If you need a break, take a break. I don't need a break from you, she said quickly. I just need space from all of this. So we booked a trip. Rebecca found a cheap flight to San Diego for the week after Christmas. She'd spend a few days at a hotel, do some spa stuff, think about things. I paid for it with our joint credit card. We had the money. We were fine. But I felt like we were drowning anyway. The night before her flight, Rebecca cried. Actually cried, these deep, body-shaking sobs. I held her, and I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to fix this. And I realized with horrible clarity that I was losing my wife. Not to another man, but to her mother. To doubt. To Linda's voice in her head, telling her she'd made a mistake. Rebecca left the next morning. I drove her to Denver International Airport, kissed her goodbye, and watched her disappear into the terminal. And then I drove home to our perfect house that now felt like a mausoleum. I had 5 days to figure out how to save my marriage before she came back. I didn't know it, but I should have been worried about something else entirely. I should have been worried about Linda. The day after Rebecca left, Linda called me. I almost didn't answer. We need to talk, she said, in person. Come to my place tomorrow evening. I don't think that's a good idea, I said. It's not optional. Come at 6. She hung up before I could respond. I spent the next 24 hours trying to figure out what she wanted. Another lecture? Another threat? I considered not going, but I was afraid of what she might do or say to Rebecca if I refused. So at 6 o'clock on December 27th, I drove out to Commerce City. Linda answered the door in her cardigan. She looked tired, older somehow. The townhouse smelled like it always did. Febreze and old furniture. Sit, she said, gesturing to the living room couch. I sat. My heart was pounding. I love my daughter, Linda began, more than anything in the world, and I can see that she's miserable, and I can see why. We're going through a rough patch, I said. It'll be fine. No, it won't, Linda said. She was standing, looking down at me. Because you're the problem. You're selfish. You pushed her into that house. You convinced her to spend money she didn't have. And now you're suffocating her with your expectations. That's not fair, I said. Fair? Linda's voice rose. You want to talk about fair? My husband worked himself to death, literally a heart attack at 53, because he was trying to prove something, to show everyone he was a success. And I watched my daughter grow up thinking that's what love looks like. Sacrifice, overwork, financial stress. And now you're doing the same thing to her. I understood, in that moment, that Linda wasn't crazy. She was scared. She'd lost her husband, and now she was terrified of losing her daughter the same way. But understanding didn't change what came next. I think you should leave, Linda said. I think you should give Rebecca some space. Real space. A week or 2. Let her stay here with me. Let her remember who she is without you. Absolutely not, I said. Then I'll make sure she leaves you, Linda said. And her voice was ice. I have money saved. I can help her. I can support her through a divorce. I can make sure she's taken care of. I stood up. You're threatening me? I'm protecting my daughter. By destroying her marriage? By saving her from making the same mistakes I made. We stared at each other. And then I did something I shouldn't have done. I got angry. I got really angry. You know what your problem is? I said. You're lonely. Your husband's been dead for 15 years, and you're so miserable that you can't stand the idea of anyone else being happy. So you're trying to ruin what Rebecca and I have, because it makes you feel less alone. That's sick, Linda. That's actually sick. Her face went white. I saw her hand shake. Get out, she whispered. Gladly, I said. I walked out of her townhouse, got in my car, and drove back to Littleton. My hands were shaking on the wheel. My mind was racing. Had I just destroyed any chance of reconciliation with Linda? Had I just made everything worse? I didn't know that things were about to get infinitely worse. I didn't know that Linda was about to do something that would change everything. The next morning, Rebecca called me from San Diego. "Hey," she said. Her voice sounded lighter than it had in weeks. "I think I'm feeling better. Being away is helping." "I'm glad," I said. "I've been thinking, and I think I want to come home early, like tomorrow instead of New Year's. I miss you. I miss us. And I think Mom's been, I don't know, I think she's been making things harder than they need to be." My heart soared. "Really?" "Really. I booked a flight. It gets into Denver at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Can you pick me up?" "Of course," I said. "I'll be there." I hung up, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Rebecca was coming home. We were going to fix this. Everything was going to be okay. I had no idea what was waiting for me at the airport. I had no idea that Linda had already made her move. That morning, the morning Rebecca was supposed to fly back, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a federal agent with the TSA. She said there'd been a report filed about me, a credible threat report. She said I needed to come in for questioning before I could board any flights. She didn't say what the threat was. She just said to come immediately. My stomach dropped. I called Rebecca. "Did you file something with the TSA?" I asked. "What? No. Why would I?" "Someone did. Someone reported me as a threat." "Linda?" There was silence on the other end. Then, oh my God, no. She wouldn't. She couldn't. But she could, and she did. I drove to the airport with a sick feeling in my gut. The TSA agent, a woman named Morrison, took me into a back room. "We received a call this morning," she said, "from a Linda Chen, reporting that you had made threats of violence against her and her daughter. She said you've been isolating your wife, controlling her finances, and that you threatened her physically when she tried to intervene." "That's not true," I said. I would never." "She also said that your wife was planning to leave you and that you threatened to hurt yourself if she did." "Jesus Christ," I said. "No, that's completely false." "We take these reports seriously," Morrison said. "Even if they turn out to be unfounded, we have to investigate. I'm going to need you to answer some questions." The questioning took an hour. I explained everything: the house, the mortgage, Linda's concerns, the Thanksgiving dinner, the phone call at work. I explained that Rebecca and I were fine, that we were working through some stress, that Linda was upset about our marriage, but I'd never threatened anyone. "Can I talk to Rebecca?" I asked. "She can tell you." "Your wife is currently going through security," Morrison said. "We're also speaking with her. But I need to be honest with you. Based on Ms. Chen's statement, we're not going to be able to let you board any flights today. We're recommending a 72-hour holding period for evaluation." "A holding period? Like psychiatric?" "It's a precaution. If you're willing to go voluntarily to a psychiatric facility for evaluation, it'll speed up the process. Otherwise, we can detain you here." I felt the floor disappear beneath me. "I want to talk to Rebecca," I said. They let me call her. She answered on the first ring, and I could hear the panic in her voice. "She said you threatened her," Rebecca said. "She said you grabbed her." "I did not grab her. I was angry, yes, but I never touched her." "Rebecca, she's lying. She's making this up because she wants to separate us." "I know," Rebecca whispered. "I know that. But the TSA doesn't. And now they're saying you can't fly, and they want you evaluated, and I don't know what to do." "Don't let her tell you what to do," I said. "Please. Come home. We'll figure this out together." "I'm trying," Rebecca said. And then her voice broke. "I'm trying so hard, and she keeps making it impossible." That's when Morrison told me I had to hang up, that I needed to make a decision about the psychiatric evaluation. I said yes. What choice did I have? They took me to Denver Health Medical Center. They put me in a room and asked me 1,000 questions. "Do you have suicidal ideation?" "No." "Do you have violent urges?" "No." "Have you ever been hospitalized for psychiatric reasons?" No. The psychiatric resident looked at my answers and looked at me and said, "Based on your responses and your presentation, I don't see any acute psychiatric emergency, but I'm recommending you stay for observation." For how long? 72 hours. Standard protocol in these situations. I spent 3 days in a psychiatric hospital because my mother-in-law lied to the TSA. 3 days. And during those 3 days, I couldn't call Rebecca. The hospital allowed one call per day, and I used it to call my work and tell them I wouldn't be in. I couldn't explain why. I just said I needed to take some personal time. On the second day, a detective came to interview me. He'd reviewed the TSA report and Linda's statement, and he wanted to hear my side. I told him everything. I told him about the house, the Thanksgiving dinner, the phone call at work, the visit to Linda's place. I told him I'd never threatened anyone, never touched anyone, never said anything that could be construed as a threat. "Your mother-in-law says you told her you'd make sure she regretted this," the detective said, reading from his notes. "I didn't say that," I said. "I said she was sick for trying to ruin my marriage. That's not a threat." The detective made a note. "I'll be looking into this further," he said. "But based on what I'm hearing, I think there may have been a misunderstanding." He left. I never heard from him again. On the third day, they released me. The psychiatrist signed off, saying I was no danger to myself or others. I was free to go. Rebecca picked me up at the hospital. She looked like she hadn't slept in 3 days. She probably hadn't. We didn't say much on the drive home. When we got inside our perfect house, Rebecca sat on the couch and started crying. "I'm so sorry," she said. "This is all my fault. If I hadn't—" "Stop," I said. "This is not your fault. This is Linda. This is all Linda. But she's my mother, and she's in so much pain, and I know she's just trying to—" "To destroy us?" I said. "Yes, that's what she's trying to do." Rebecca flinched. But it was true, and we both knew it. That night, Rebecca called Linda. I sat on the couch listening to one side of the conversation. "Mom, what you did was wrong. No, I don't care if you thought you were helping. You can't just file false reports with the TSA. He spent 3 days in a psychiatric hospital because of you." I could hear Linda's voice on the other end, calm and reasonable, and absolutely convinced she'd done the right thing. "I don't want to talk about this anymore," Rebecca said. "I don't want to see you. I don't want you calling me. We're done." She hung up. And that should have been the end of it. Rebecca had cut off her mother. We could move forward. We could heal. But it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the end. Because Linda wasn't done. She had one more move left, and it was going to destroy everything. #finalne chast. 2 weeks later, I hired a lawyer. Her name was Susan Hartley, and she worked out of a small office in downtown Denver. She had steel gray hair, reading glasses on a chain, and a way of looking at you that made you feel like she'd seen everything twice before. "This is defamation," she said, reviewing the TSA report and Linda's statement. "Knowingly filing a false report with federal authorities. That's not just a civil matter, that's potentially criminal. Filing a false threat report is a federal offense." "Can we sue her?" I asked. "We can. But first, we need evidence. We need to show that she knowingly lied. What we have right now is he said she said. We need her on record." So we did something I wasn't proud of, but I was desperate. We set up a phone call with Linda. Rebecca would call her, and I would record the conversation. It's legal in Colorado if one party consents, and Rebecca consented. She didn't want to do it. She was terrified. But she did it anyway. "Mom, I need to talk to you about what happened at the airport," Rebecca said, her voice steady even though her hands were shaking. We were in Susan's office, the recording device on speaker. "I did what I had to do," Linda said immediately. No hello, no preamble, just defensive. "You're my daughter, and I wasn't going to sit by and watch him destroy you." "He didn't destroy anything," Rebecca said. "And you lied. You told the TSA he threatened you. He never did that. He grabbed me." "He did not grab you. You told me he got angry and told you that you were sick for trying to ruin our marriage. That's not a threat. That's him being upset. There's a difference." Rebecca, you're not thinking clearly. He's manipulated you into. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months, Rebecca said, because I'm not listening to you anymore. What you did was wrong. You filed a false federal report. You got him detained in a psychiatric hospital. And you did it on purpose, to try to separate us. There was a long silence. I was protecting you, Linda said quietly. No, Rebecca said. You were protecting yourself. You were scared of losing me, so you tried to blow up my marriage. And I'm done. I'm done with the calls, the judgment, the interference. I'm done with you. She hung up. Susan leaned back in her chair. That's good. That's actually really good. She admitted she filed the report. She admitted her motive was to separate you two. And she's claiming he grabbed her, which contradicts your account. Play that recording for a detective, and we've got a case. But I didn't want a case. I wanted my life back. What happens if we pursue this? I asked. Best case? Criminal charges against your mother-in-law for filing a false federal report. She could face fines and jail time, civil suit for emotional distress and defamation. You could get a restraining order. She'd be legally barred from contacting either of you. And worst case? She fights it, says she genuinely believed you were a threat, drags it out for years, cost you money. Rebecca has to testify. You have to relive everything, and there's no guarantee you win. I looked at Rebecca. She was staring at her hands. What do you want to do? I asked her. I want to be done, she whispered. I want my mother to leave us alone, and I want to move forward with my life, with you. So we filed the restraining order. That was the first step. Getting legal documentation that Linda was to have zero contact with either of us. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. During those 3 weeks, Linda tried everything. She called from different numbers. She sent emails. She even showed up at Rebecca's dental office, and the staff had to call the police to have her removed from the premises. Each incident was documented, dated, and added to our file. Susan was furious. She's making our case for us, she said. Keep documenting everything. Every call, every email, every unwanted contact. This is exactly what we need. The restraining order hearing was on a Tuesday afternoon in January. We walked into the Denver County Courthouse, and Linda was already there, sitting in the back of the courtroom with a woman I didn't recognize, probably a lawyer she'd hired. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Patricia Mullins. She reviewed the evidence, the TSA report, the recording of Rebecca's phone call, the documentation of Linda's continued attempts to contact us after Rebecca told her to stop. Susan presented our case calmly and methodically. She played the recording. She showed the text messages, the emails, the incident report from Rebecca's dental office. She presented the TSA file, which documented that Linda's report had been found to have no credible basis. Then, Linda's lawyer stood up. He was young, maybe 40, and he looked uncomfortable. Your Honor, my client filed a report because she was genuinely concerned for her daughter's safety. She may have been mistaken, but her intent was protective, not malicious. Your client has continued to contact her daughter repeatedly after being explicitly told to stop, Judge Mullins said. That's not protective. That's harassment. My client is a widow living alone. She's struggling with anxiety. Your client is a woman who weaponized federal authorities to destroy her daughter's marriage, Judge Mullins interrupted. And when that didn't work, she escalated to harassment and stalking. I'm going to grant the restraining order. She looked directly at Linda. You are ordered to have no contact with Rebecca or Michael Chen, either directly or indirectly, by phone, email, mail, or in person. You are to maintain a distance of at least 300 feet from their home, their workplace, and any location where they are known to gather. You are to surrender any weapons in your possession. This order is effective immediately and will remain in effect for 2 years, at which point it can be renewed. Do you understand? Linda nodded, her face white. As we left the courtroom, I felt something shift inside me. Not relief exactly, more like the beginning of relief. like maybe we were going to be okay. But Susan wasn't done. 2 weeks later, she filed criminal charges against Linda for filing a false federal report and for the harassment and stalking that followed. The prosecutor was a woman named Michelle Torres, and she took the case seriously. She reviewed everything: the TSA report, the recording, the hospital records showing I'd been admitted based on Linda's false statement, the documentation of continued contact despite Rebecca's explicit requests to stop. Linda hired a criminal defense attorney. For 3 months, there were hearings and depositions and meetings. Linda claimed she genuinely believed I was a threat, that she was a concerned mother trying to protect her daughter. The prosecutor countered with the recording, where Linda admitted she filed the report to separate us. In the end, Linda took a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to filing a false federal report and agreed to 2 years of probation, a $1,000 fine, and attendance at a mental health counseling program. The criminal harassment charges were dropped as part of the deal. When Susan told me, I felt like I should feel something: vindication, justice. But all I felt was tired. Rebecca cried when I told her. Not happy tears, sad tears. The kind of tears you cry for something that's broken and can't be fixed. That's my mother, she said. No matter what she did, that's still my mother. I know, I said. She's going to be alone now. The restraining order, the legal stuff. Everyone in her life is probably going to know about this. She's going to be so alone. I wanted to say she deserved it, that she'd brought it on herself. But I didn't. Because Rebecca was already suffering enough. We didn't sell the house. We stayed in our perfect ranch in Littleton, in our perfect neighborhood, with our perfect mortgage. We went to marriage counseling, not because we needed it, but because we wanted to process everything with a professional. We slowly rebuilt what Linda had tried to destroy. Rebecca didn't speak to her mother for 2 years. Not a call, not a text, nothing. The restraining order meant she couldn't, but even after it expired, Rebecca didn't reach out. She grieved the relationship, the mother she wanted Linda to be, the family she'd always imagined. But she couldn't forgive. And I came to understand something during that time. Linda wasn't a villain. She was a scared woman who'd lost her husband, who was terrified of losing her daughter, who didn't know how to ask for help, so she tried to control everything instead. She was broken, but her brokenness didn't give her the right to break us. 2 years after the restraining order was granted, Linda had a stroke. She was alone in her townhouse when it happened. A neighbor found her. She survived, but she was partially paralyzed and needed full-time care. Rebecca found out through her brother Mark, who called to tell her. Rebecca sat with that information for 3 days, and then she made a decision. She went to see her mother. I didn't go with her. This was between Rebecca and Linda. I waited at home, terrified she'd come back hurt, that Linda would say something cruel, that we'd lose her again to her mother's toxicity. Rebecca was gone for 2 hours. When she came back, her eyes were red from crying, but there was something different in her face. Peace, maybe, or at least the beginning of it. She apologized, Rebecca said, sitting down on the couch next to me. Not a big, grand apology, but she cried, and she said she was sorry. She said she was scared, and she did something terrible, and she understands if I can never forgive her. Are you going to? I asked. I don't know, Rebecca said. Maybe, eventually. But not right now. Right now I'm just sad that my mother is broken. And I'm grateful that I have you, and that I didn't let her break us. Linda died 3 years later. A second stroke. This time fatal. Rebecca went to the funeral. I wasn't invited, and I didn't think it was my place. But Rebecca went, and she cried, and she said goodbye to a mother she'd never fully understood. After the funeral, Rebecca came home and held my hand, and we sat together in our perfect house, which had become a real home. Not because the walls were beautiful or the kitchen had granite countertops, but because we'd fought for it. Because we'd chosen each other when someone we loved was trying to tear us apart. Because we'd survived. The TSA incident became something we almost never talked about. It was there, in our history, a scar we both carried. But it wasn't our story anymore. Our story was about two people who loved each other enough to stand firm, to say no, to refuse to be destroyed. And that story, finally, had a happy ending.